This episode of Cognitive Dissonance is brought to you by our patrons. You fucking rock. Be advised that this show is not for children, the faint of heart, or the easily offended. The explicit tag is there for a reason.
Recording live from Glory Hole Studios in Chicago and beyond, this is Cognitive Dissonance. Every episode we blast anyone who gets in our way. We bring critical thinking, skepticism, and irreverence to any topic that makes the news, makes it big, or makes us mad. It's skeptical, it's political, and there is no welcome mat. This is episode 613.
12.
Of Cognitive Dissonance. And I almost got that wrong.
He did.
But I could barely read it up there
hard
in the corner.
It's hard to see.
Cecil.
It's hard to see.
Like hiding these things from me. I can't.
There you go.
It was labeled wrong.
Can't know. And this episode shall be known as the Senate is a broken institution. Let's abolish it episode.
Yeah, man.
It's a fucking broken institution.
Terrible.
We'll talk about it in great detail. But it is the dumbest fucking institution. I can't understand how it is fucking defensible. Yeah. It is a garbage institution.
Yeah, it's terrible. And, you know, the thing is like, we get what we deserve in 2022 and 2024. We get what we deserve. We get what we deserve. And so, like, what's going to happen is a huge shift of power. And you're going to see a huge shift of power that the Republicans will almost certainly sweep in both houses. And then you're going to see a Republican president in 2024.
I don't disagree with you.
You're going to see that.
I don't disagree.
I mean, unless it's like, I don't know. It depends. It depends on who it is, but you probably will. Chances are, you know, like sometimes you can motivate, most of the time you can motivate the left to come out for like the big elections, but it's really hard to get them to come out for the smaller elections. And, you know.
Well, we didn't pass voting rights, so it's really hard to get them to vote because it's harder for them to vote.
I say, you know, we didn't pass voting rights because two people didn't want to step up on the filibuster. Right. That was both Manchin and Sinema didn't want to vote for the filibuster. They weren't going to vote down. They weren't going to vote down the filibuster.
Yeah. They were trying to change the rule to be a talking filibuster again. Yeah, like it used to be. But now the filibuster is actually procedurally the threat of a filibuster is it has the same effect within the Senate as a talking filibuster.
I hate that so much.
Yeah, I know. So like the fucking Mr. Smith goes to Washington thing, it procedurally can't even occur anymore.
Yeah.
It's fucking ridiculous.
So they'll just say we're going to fill it. All we have to do is like
the threat of the filibuster.
It's a threat, and you can't even bring it up.
The threat of the filibuster has the effect of a full filibuster. So they've removed the necessity to actually say. So and all the Democrats were really trying to push at the end was let's revert back to the talking filibuster. Right. If you really want to do it, then you hold the fucking floor. You hold the floor.
Why wouldn't you vote for that if you were a Democrat?
Man.
It doesn't seem like it makes...
I have read a bunch of analysis of this, and I honestly, like, struggle to understand it. I really do. I struggle to understand Joe Manchin at all.
Yeah.
I struggle to understand him at all. West Virginians, by and large, I know they say, like, oh, he's from a red state. He's a Democrat from a red state, so he's got to, like, play to that base. But, yeah, I mean, not really. Not really, because everything that I've seen shows that, like, the voting rights legislation that they're trying to push through and even the filibuster, these are wildly popular. Wildly popular. He's not even trying to sell it. Yeah. The coal miners union came out and said, like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? You know, so it's not like pro-industry, pro-coal mine, I don't understand it. I don't. I understand it in the sense that, like, I know he's got personal financial connections that really made it impossible for him to back the big infrastructure plan because he personally would lose money. But as far as like the voting rights piece and moving the filibuster, moving the needle on the filibuster, I don't know. There was something like that I read this week that was talking about, you know, the idea is that with a filibuster in place, the Senate is actually ruled by the minority because the majority cannot accomplish anything without the minority's fucking permission.
Sure.
So, and in these intensely divided times where politics have become a zero-sum game and it's about like look, that might be a good idea, but I can't give you a win because giving you a win makes me less popular among my peers and among my constituents. We're at a place where kind of nothing in the Senate can get done, and the entirety of American politics is at a fucking standstill.
Yeah.
I think the Democrats don't want to see the Republicans use the broken, they don't want to break the filibuster, then the Republicans can do it. But the thing is that they're missing is if there's a majority of Republicans, the Republicans can change the rule, right? So it's not like if the Democrats change the rule, then the Republicans will also be able to reap the rewards of it. And you're like, whoa, okay, that sounds bad. But it's like, well, okay, but if we don't do it in 2022 and the Republicans take the Senate, the Republicans can also abolish the filibuster, thus rendering the Democrats fucking complete eunuchs who didn't seize the opportunity in 21 when they had it.
They won't do that, though. I don't think they'll do it. And I don't think they'll do it because for them, the filibuster's perfect. It stops progress. It stops progress. And that's what they want to do. They don't want anything to happen. They don't want anything to progress. All they want to do is just continue to have what they have. That's it. They want to make sure. And so anything that they want to pass is all tax stuff. That's almost all the stuff.
Yeah, they get that through budget
stuff.
reconciliation.
That's all they ever do. They don't do anything. They don't normally bother with anything.
I guess you're right. And Biden called that out and said something like,
what do they stand for?
What do they stand
What
for?
do you stand for? Nothing.
Yeah, nothing at all.
Yeah, nothing. So,
and that was exactly the right thing to say. I mean, what do you fucking stand for? But I don't know that that's going to motivate enough people on the left.
It won't. It won't.
Go out and vote. The thing is, like, the left is in charge and we knew this going into 2020. Like, the left is in charge by the thinnest of margins and by the barest of technicalities.
And you've got to get every single person has to have 100% consensus.
Yeah.
And that's not the case. It's not going to be like that. They're not going to, these people some of these people don't want change at all.
No,
so,
right. And the solution to that is to not be satisfied with the barest fucking win.
Right.
The solution to that is to put 55 or 60 fucking senators that are Democrats into play, right? And then you don't need the fucking Republicans because you've just got that. But we become so disillusioned so quickly that rather than saying, holy shit, 50 wasn't enough, let's get 55.
Yeah.
We say 50 wasn't enough. Everything's garbage. Stop trying.
Yeah.
And as soon as you do that, you lose because then the Republicans are in charge.
Yeah. Well, and the problem is that we have a base now that is, and I do feel for them, right? Like there's a large group of people in this country that are being crushed by student loan debt.
Absolutely.
That are being crushed by high rents. They literally cannot afford to get their own house, and then they can't afford a apartment that's bigger than like a studio or a one bedroom. They can't ever get any traction because the jobs are all too low paying. So they're just stuck in this fucking rut that they've been in for years.
Yep.
And so, when you're that person and you're just like, I keep voting for, change and nothing happens. Why convince me to vote? You know what I mean? Like, especially when there are things in his power that he can do. Smashing several people's student loan debt, especially, and I don't even mind if it's like people of this income bracket or lower. Like I wouldn't mind that other. Like you lose it all. Or graduated, where they're like, if you're of this much income, you lose this much. If you have this much income, you lose this much. Whatever it is, get rid of it. If you start wiping some of that debt away, life changes for them. And this is very much for people of color. Very much for people of color.
Sure.
And so, there's some things that he could do right now. And my great hope is that he's not doing it now because if he loses both the things, he'll just be like, fine, I'll just do it by executive order, because he can do that. But, and I think once you wipe it away, it's not like the next president come up and be like, and I call it all back.
Right. I don't know how that will work. I guess I was thinking about that. Like, I don't doubt that it's possible, but I don't know what authority that executive order works under to eliminate the student loan debt. What makes me worry is like the mandate that got struck down.
Right.
So, the mandate that got struck down, a lot of people said that makes all the sense in the world. Like the president has control ultimately over OSHA. OSHA has control over businesses. OSHA is allowed to make rules that are sensible rules to keep people safe in the workplace. So this mandate all makes sense. But then if the whole thing just goes to the courts, it gets overturned because, an executive order is only as good as its ability to be enforced.
Right.
And so I wonder too if like if you put something through legislatively, if you put something through legislatively, it's always better than by executive order because it's got the force of law behind it.
Sure. Who's the aggrieved party in the loan thing though? Like, how do you get it to court?
Banks will probably take it to court.
What bank?
Banks service those loans.
Oh,
the servicers.
I see.
Yeah, so the banks service those loans. So the government doesn't like actually service that. They farm that out to servicers. So I would imagine that servicers would
There's a possibility. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, I'm still fucking fingers crossed
people.
on it.
Fuck those people.
Oh, I know, man.
Then.
I have no sympathy for it, so I don't want to come across that way.
Fuck
you know?
that.
But
God. Then fucking A, man. If that happened and they overturned it in the courts, you're essentially, like, you're locked down. I mean, you're already locked down. You're locked down because your own party is doing shit against you. You're locked down because the courts are against you. You're locked down anyway.
Yeah.
And so, like, it's just, like, even though you won in 2020, it still doesn't feel like you did. It's like, yeah, you won all three. You have all three houses, but you're like, not really.
Yeah.
You don't have the courts, and, you know, like, every single thing seems to be getting thwarted. So you're just like, cool, man.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I think it's honestly, I think it's the problem of winning barely.
Yeah.
You know, I think politics have become something where if you don't win big, you didn't really win at all.
Yeah.
And 2020 was such a fucking barely squeak. I mean, we had to do a fundraiser on this show to barely
squeak those guys by. And they barely won too again.
Right.
Yeah.
So I just wonder, because like nobody feels like they have a mandate. Everybody feels like this is the razor's edge margin, and they're right. You know, and it's part of it is just structural too. It's like the Senate's a bad institution. It's a bad institution that doesn't represent the vast majority of the actual human beings that live in this country.
Yeah.
You know, it's something like it's something like 40 million more people are represented in the Senate on the right than should be.
Yeah.
You know, I may have that number a little wrong, but I read something similar to that the other way.
It's an immense
amount of people that are, it's just an overrepresentation.
Right.
The House of Representatives just inherently makes more sense because it's weighted based on population.
And even that is still
heavily weighted
towards rural areas.
Right. But at least there's an attempt at
there's some kind of attempt. Yeah, there's nothing.
The Senate's just fucking garbage.
Yeah.
Like you can have some fucking senator from fucking Rhode Island where fucking 3 people live and you could drive your car across it in 20 minutes and stop and get a burger on the way.
Yeah.
And that's as fucking powerful as a senator from California that has the 5th largest economy in the world.
Yeah.
Hell. The fire. And you might say, well, hell isn't real. You've been unbelievably sheltered in your own life if you don't believe that hell is real. Hell. You haven't looked enough. Hell. If you think that's true. Hell.
This story is insane and feels like it belongs in the past, but alas, no. CBS News, they used us as an experiment. Arkansas inmates who were given ivermectin to treat COVID file federal lawsuit against jail. You know, like, we've talked a lot about the criminal justice system in this country.
Yeah.
And we focus a lot, and I think rightfully so, we focus a lot on the institutions of power that bring people into correctional facilities. And we've spent a lot less time on this show talking about what happens to the people we have talked about, but less time. What happens to people when they're in correctional facilities.
Yeah.
And man, it's a fucking horror.
It is.
It is a motherfucking horror the way that we treat people inside correctional facilities right now. There's this, it's not even on the show notes, but like there's a related story that's been going on for weeks in the Times. I see it, you know, about Rikers Island. And Rikers Island is essentially being run by gangs that run that run that jail. It's not a prison, but run that jail.
Yeah.
The guards are not in charge. People are dying. They're getting beaten. Our jail system is insane.
Yeah.
And once you get thrown into that correctional facility, you're disappeared, man. Like it's a fucking third world country. You have no fucking rights.
And the worst part, the very worst part is that we're talking about 2 jails. You're talking about Rikers. We're talking about this. You cannot be charged with anything. You could be charged with something, but not have a trial yet and still go there.
Oh, yeah.
So you could be housed there until your trial because you couldn't make bail. And they do this especially all the time to people of color, where they make the bail larger and then they can't get out. And it's money that they just don't have, right? So that they can't get out. And in this case, it said in the article, 2/3 of the people being held in Washington County Detention Center have not been convicted of their accused crime. They're still waiting trial. And that's 2/3 of the people there.
Yeah.
And they're testing that because the governor or whatever, and it's fucking down home Alabama, and they all think ivermectin. Is it Alabama? I'm sorry. Arkansas. Whatever. It's the same. It's the same.
It doesn't
place.
matter.
It doesn't matter.
It's one of the
They're
garbage.
literally interchangeable. Right. I don't even know the difference between the two.
You know why they're interchangeable? They're places you won't go.
I'll never be in either one.
You would never go.
In any case, in Arkansas, like this is like yeehaw. The previous president is right. Joe Rogan is right. Whoever else is pushing ivermectin this week is right. And so they're talking about, you need that ivermectin. And so this guy who's in charge is just like, yeah, man, give him ivermectin.
Yep.
And these people are taking not just like the regular dosage of ivermectin. They're taking 4 times the regular dosage. But like the side effects of ivermectin are horrifying.
Yeah.
It's not like you're like, oh man, that's super easy. No, they're fucking horrifying. So the fact that we're like giving these people an untested drug that is literally politically motivated for something that, is a serious thing untreated, and they have no say in what they receive. Like it's the most egregious, I don't mind, you want to drink your own piss, you want to fucking snort crushed up ivermectin, go do you. Yeah. You know what I mean? You want to go kill yourself, you want to go fucking hurt yourself, go hurt yourself. I don't care, right? But this is a guy who doesn't have a fucking choice.
Yep.
And they're fucking telling him they're vitamins.
Yeah. This is medical experimentation.
Literally.
What the right constantly dredges up the specter of Nazism. I saw unironically the other day, I saw on somebody's Facebook page a photo that they had taken of a sign, Cecil, on a table that's at a Starbucks. It said something like, if you're not vaccinated, it's in Cook County. So it's something like, if you're not vaccinated, you got to take your drink and go, basically. You can't eat inside or drink inside. And they posted something like, this is how it started with the Nazis or something like and it's like, first of all, that literally not being able to drink your drink inside a Starbucks is not how the Reichstag burned. Like, that's not the same. It's not, but okay, fine. But fucking medical experimentation of fucking prisoners.
Yeah.
Literally medical experimentation on prisoners. This is some straight up evil World War II style villain shit. It's villainy. It's fucking villainy. It's
absolutely horrific. And the fact that they're experimenting with political drugs on these people.
Right.
I mean, this is a purely political. The reason why they're doing it is purely political. There's no medical evidence that this does anything.
None whatsoever. None at all. But you've got people who don't. The part of the problem, man, is like, we have people in charge who don't believe that evidence is the standard that should be used to make decisions.
Right.
They really don't. They really don't believe that evidence is the minimum standard to make a decision. Decisions are made some other way, which isn't as good, because you literally can't name any other way.
The way it is
that good.
The way it is does it trigger the other side? Is it something that the others, at a certain point, I almost feel like we need to almost do like reverse psychology or something where you're
yes, do take the ivermectin.
Where like you're saying, you should take ivermectin and stay away from the vaccine. Don't get the vaccine. You know what I mean? Like,
that's just for us elites.
That's only for, because I think at this point, I think they're willing to believe it. I think if you had the right messaging, you'd be lying to them. Right. But I don't think that matters. Right. Because at a certain point, they're never going to believe anything you say anyway. So if you say the thing that they, it's like that fucking riddle where you're just like, what does the other guy say or whatever, man, like it's Tweedledee or whatever.
This is literally how I treat my stepdaughter every morning. I drop her off at school and I tell her, have a terrible day today.
Yeah.
And she says, no, I'm going to have a great day.
Yeah.
And then she storms off to have a great day. You know? And it's like, you got to treat fucking Republicans the same way.
Like your 10-year-old stepdaughter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Don't take the vaccine. That's just for lefties. And they'll be like, no, vaccine's for all of us. They can't. Because the only thing that matters is just like that desire to fight, man.
Yeah.
That desire to just like be enraged all the time.
I almost feel like you've got to do that. I think you just got to, like, at a certain point, I think our messaging has to shift to don't you dare get the vaccine.
Right.
It's only for us people on the left.
Yeah, this is for,
at a certain point, what else can work?
At this point, Nothing.
Yeah.
At this point, the only thing that's going to work is just wave after wave of COVID that eventually just infects them and infects them and whittles their numbers down.
That's the thing, is because there are still fresh posts on Herman Cain Award.
Yeah, man.
There are still fresh posts with people who haven't been vaccinated that talk a bunch of shit beforehand, and then 2 weeks later, they're like, please pray for me. And then 3 weeks later, there's a GoFundMe for their funeral.
Yeah, man. I mean, we're the average number of deaths is ticking steadily up. You know, like the number of new infections is starting to level off and come down, but like
those
deaths
are going to follow. They're going to have to go up.
Up over 2,000 a day now.
It's a lot.
So
yeah,
gonna be Herman Cain Awards all over the place, man.
It is only the individual, after all, who suffers. The group does not suffer. Instead, the production of individual suffering can and has and will be again rationalized and justified for its supposed benefits for the future and the group.
This, I don't even know anymore, man. This story's from an NPR affiliate. Florida, just hear the words I'm going to read.
Read it.
Just hear it. Florida Department of Health confirms Dr. Raul Pino put on leave for encouraging Orange County Department of Health employees to get vaccinated. Again, a health official was encouraging other health officials to get vaccinated.
Yeah.
And the encouragement, not, mind you, a financial inducement.
Yeah. It's not a mandate.
Not a mandate.
Yeah.
Not a draconian requirement of any sort.
Yeah.
An encouragement by a health official to other health officials to get vaccinated. That's how crazy Florida has gotten. Why in the world would anybody voluntarily live in Florida at this point, man?
Could you? I get so many messages in my inbox about Florida. Like, everybody that listens to the show sends me messages about Florida constantly. And it's all about DeSantis, and it's all about, I mean, it's insane down there. And this guy is a fucking toxin. He's an absolute poison. He's the one pulling the levers down there.
Yep.
So, this rolls up to him. So,
well, I think DeSantis has, cannily realized that American politics, at least on the right, they don't have to coincide with what's true anymore.
No,
if you tell people the story they want to hear, right, which is, we're going to keep your stores open, we're going to keep the beaches open, we're going to keep, the money flowing and all the rest of this, and it doesn't matter that you're saying this like standing on top of a pile of bodies. Like, truth is no longer something which is valued anymore, and truth is something that can be, I think that he's realized that the idea of truth is an antiquated notion at this point. It's not relevant to political power.
Yeah.
And so you've got a situation where DeSantis is trying, and I think in many ways, unfortunately, successfully, through force of will and force of narrative, to reshape reality around him. It's incredibly Orwellian.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't use that word hyperbolically, but it's literally playbook Orwellian shit, you know?
They took the cuffs off of the really, really disgusting, awful people in the party.
Yeah.
They basically took the leash off of those people. Those people who were really terrible before, but who kind of felt like they were hemmed in by the sort of norms of the day.
Yeah.
They don't have to do that anymore.
Nope.
And so these really terrible people, especially these people in Florida, these people in Texas, they realize I can do pretty much whatever the fuck I want and these people will love me.
Yeah.
And they'll come down and they'll say things like, oh, your state's going to experience so many people are going to go to the hospital. No, they won't. And they literally do.
Yeah.
And then they come out and they're like, see, it never happened.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We've moved, and very, very rapidly in 5-6 years, we have moved into a place where naked self-interest and hypocrisy and lies are no longer in any way disqualifying, but in many ways, they encourage people, they excite people, right?
Yeah.
Because, it's, to me, I think of it like in our community, like it's kind of the Sargon effect in some ways, right? Like the more atrocious you are, openly atrocious, and the more you sort of celebrate those atrocious elements within you openly and out loud, the more some people are sort of drawn to that as if it's brave,
Right.
as if you're like that guy who's willing to stand up and say the things that everyone else is thinking. And it's like, no, man, you're horrible. And up until relatively recently, you had a fucking muzzle on because
we didn't tolerate it.
we would not listen to that shit.
We wouldn't tolerate it.
And like the muzzle's off.
Yeah.
It's off all these fucking rabid dogs, and they're all fucking barking and biting and spewing.
And they're the worst.
Yeah.
And it's not going to get any better soon.
No, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
And I have some sense of how fast time goes. I've always had a very acute sense of the finitude of existence. And so don't take it for granted. Every second you get that isn't painful, you should cherish.
All right, I take that back.
Yeah, this is great. This is delicious. This is from Gizmodo. Watching OAN's lies will be difficult now that it's being dumped by DirecTV. DirecTV is owned by AT&T, and they are not renewing OAN's contract. And that's pretty much where OAN is.
Yeah.
That's it. Like OAN is difficult to find otherwise.
When they took Alex Jones off of YouTube, you couldn't find him.
Yep.
You had to go to Alex Jones's site.
Yep.
And he lost. When they took him off Twitter, they took him off YouTube. You heard him. You heard how badly he did after that.
Yep.
When they took him off the platforms. Look at what happened with Trump. When they took Trump off his platform of Twitter.
Yep.
What happened?
Bloop.
His message just immediately disintegrated.
Yep.
This push for fake news, this disinformation, all gone. Just ripped right out of the ecosystem because he cannot speak to those people anymore. This is a good thing. Pull these people off the network. Sorry, you can't be here anymore. You're fucking liars. We don't want to be responsible for your lies. Get off. And they actually sued to get on. So in this article, they talk about how OAN actually sued DirecTV to actually get on DirecTV. And now that they're so toxic and they're going to be sued by all these, by Vote-Matic and Dominion.
Yep.
They're like, fuck you, go away. You're not getting renewed. And so you're right. This is where they're at. So now you can go to fucking like OAN.TV or whatever, but you can't go anywhere else. And Grandpa is not going to try to set his laptop up to go watch this. He wanted to watch it on his Dish network rurally, right?
Yep.
They reached, this is the network.
This is a demographic, right?
It reaches those people that have a dish, right? When was the last time you had a dish, Tom?
Oh, Jesus, man.
Did you have a dish?
The 90s?
You had a dish back in the 90s,
I had a dish back in the late 90s.
Right?
Yeah.
I had a dish in 2004 was the last time I had a dish.
Been
And
a
I had a
long
dish
time.
for a year. And then a moment Comcast was available in my area, I was like, I'll have Comcast. Thank you. I took Comcast over the dish because when it rained hard, I couldn't watch TV. And these are people in the rural areas of the country. These are rural, especially the deep rural, because you can get this anywhere. You can get DirecTV anywhere.
Anywhere.
As long as you got like a west-facing
you
window
could put
or
it on
whatever.
a boat.
You could put it anywhere. You can put it in your ass for sure. And if you want to put DirecTV in your ass, you can go to Adam.
What I love is this is the market speaking, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the guys who are constantly, the market is going to tell you what how to do. Yep. Okay, great.
Yep.
Well, you know what?
Just did.
And OAN.TV or OAN.com, they're not going to be able to make enough money to keep, because Alex Jones is a one-man show with a handful of employees fucking recording out of his basement or some like little rink-a-dink studio. Something like OAN costs money. They're not going to be able to meet their expenses. They're not going to be able to stay operational.
They have old people from like Fox that are on there.
Yeah, they're the fucking JV squad.
They've taken people from regular networks. Like,
can you imagine what those paychecks look like?
I don't know.
Those paychecks can't be super, super cheap. And now what are you going to do? Like, okay, now we have as soon as you're off DirecTV.
Exposure.
Yeah, right? Yeah, you're like a fucking graphic designer trying
to work for exposure.
Hustled on Craigslist.
Yeah. You know what they need to do then is they need to shift away from the old JV squad that was on Fox News and just be like, okay, it's the Liz Crokin.
And next up is Ann Vandersteel telling you how you too can be a natural sovereign citizen.
And then we'll be doing the Home Shopping Network with Jim Baker a little later on today.
I wonder if all the crazies will band together.
They don't like each other, though. Do you remember a couple of weeks ago?
Fighting.
Do you remember a couple weeks ago when they were like fighting? It was that one guy. What's that guy's name?
Oh, Mark Hamill? No.
Mark Hamill?
That's a Jedi.
That's a different guy.
No,
that's
Mark.
a different guy.
The firefighter prophet.
Firefighter prophet. Mark.
Yeah, he had a real pissing match because they elevated some other prophet lady too fast. And there's all that fucking
he was mad,
drama.
And they were mad at him because he wanted money. And it's all about the money. So it'll be tough. It's going to be tough. It is going to be rough going for all of them. So.
It's fucking delicious.
I'm glad this is gone. I'm glad this is off the air.
Get the fuck out of here.
You know, maybe we'll see. You know, like these people were one of the major reasons why we had so much disinformation around the election.
Oh, yeah, man.
One of the major reasons. I remember I was fighting with a guy who used to listen to the show. So, you know, years ago, there was this fellow who listened to the show and we were Facebook friends. And when this whole election thing popped up, he started instant messaging me. And we were getting into arguments about what he would send me OAN clips. And I'd be like, that's all bullshit. That's like a lie. Are you serious? Like, that's not a real source.
Yeah. Send me something credible.
And then I would send him things from Reuters. I would send him things that debunked this from like, not just Snopes. I wasn't just sending him Snopes. Right. I was sending him like Reuters. I was sending him, you know,
vetted,
legitimate news sources. These are news sources. Like, it's not like Reuters is like a fly-by-night. This is a news source that other news sources look to for information and breaking information. They do it all the time. I sent him stuff from all over the place that was vetted news sources. And he was like, I don't believe any of that stuff.
Yeah, right. I don't believe. It's amazing because like they're going to say stupid shit. The fucking OAN fucking idiots will say stupid shit like, you can't, I believe everything mainstream media.
Yeah.
And then they walk over in their living room and they pick up a fucking remote control and they turn their television on and they tune it to channel OAN. Yeah. And it's like, how is that not also a form of mainstream media?
I know, it's the same. You're right. You can't believe
what the fuck is wrong with you?
Literally mainstream media.
Tell me what I've gotten in this conversation only a handful of times because it goes nowhere. But I'm like, define your fucking term.
Yeah.
Tell me what does it mean for something to be mainstream? Is it mainstream because it reaches a certain viewership? Tell me what that number is.
Yeah.
What is that number?
Yeah.
How do you know something is it's a bullshit word. It's a bullshit term bandied about by assholes who don't understand how news is delivered and gathered and disseminated. They've never taken a single fucking journalism class. Yeah. They don't have any fucking idea how any of those systems within the fourth estate actually goddamn work. But they're just like, the memes I read on Twitter say something different.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
You see that graph of that Dunning-Kruger or whatever it's called, where like the people who know the least are like, they're the highest up on how much they think they know. Same thing happened with voting. When people were talking about voting and they're like, oh, look at all this voter fraud. And you're like, do you even know how voting happens? Do you even know how, tell me how it happens other than you going to get your thing. Like you go there, but do you know how any of the stuff behind the scenes works? And they don't know. They don't know anyway. Literally don't know. And that's why you had all those people who were, quote unquote election judges or whatever.
The vote watchers or whatever.
Vote watchers.
Yeah.
And they didn't know what was happening.
Yep.
So when someone would take a stack of ballots and put it over with something, they're like, where are you taking those? What are you doing with them? They didn't know. And they kept doing it over and over and over again. They're like trying to learn what's happening, but then they don't care what's happening because they want to just accuse you of wrongdoing.
Yeah, well, they're trying to learn on the job when their job in their mind is also to audit the job.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like, motherfucker, those are mutually exclusive possibilities.
Yeah. And it's the saddest thing though, because we've gotten a group of people in this country that are just unbelievably ignorant.
Yes.
And then they revel in that ignorance. And then if you try to correct them, they're like, no, I don't believe that stuff. I don't believe what you're trying to say.
And your point is exactly right. They revel in that ignorance. And we are at a place where our politicians are telling people that ignorance is a value.
It's a virtue.
It is a virtue.
Yeah.
Madison Cawthorn several weeks ago, he did a thing where he stood up and said, like, mothers raise terrible sons. Do you remember this? He stood up in front of everybody and he said, he was trying, the idea is to convince people that being awful, that being uneducated, that being this certain kind of Republican is the only kind of true America. That true America is white, it's uneducated, and it's fucking mean-spirited. And they're tapping into that mean-spiritedness, man. And they are doing it, I think, fairly, like, accurately and fairly effectively. It's terrifying to watch, man.
What the hell are we going to do without men? You look around the city here, you see all these buildings go up. These men, they're doing impossible things. They're under the streets, working on the sewers. They're up on the power lines in the storms and the rain. They're keeping this impossible infrastructure functioning, this thing that works in a miraculous manner. They work themselves to death, and often literally, and they can make their communities better, and that's not toxic masculinity, that appalling phrase.
So we just found this thing, and it's from Patriot Takes, and so this was clearly on Parler or what is the other thing? WhatsApp. What are they using? Gab. I don't know what they're using. Signal, Telegram. So it could be somewhere. I don't know exactly where they found it. But, and again, I also want to point out too, I don't know how true this is, right? Because this could be somebody who is just like trolling the people on the right. I don't know who this person is. I've never seen them before. They certainly fit the bill as a person who would be an anti-vax, quote unquote, skeptic, would be like a vaccine denial person.
Can we talk real quick, Cecil, before you begin it, about the background? So there's a guy on the screen, right, guys? And he's got a We the People shirt on. Okay. And he's clearly in a bedroom because there's a dresser. Yeah, there's a dresser. And on that dresser is an Illuminati pyramid with the eye.
Yeah.
Then on his mantelpiece is a flag, an American flag with the one red stripe. I forgot what that one is.
I don't know.
Then he's got, like, on the background, he's got that fucking Anonymous.
Yeah. What is that? V for Vendetta.
V for Vendetta thing in the background. So he's just got, like, the trappings.
But then he also has, like, in contrast to that, it clearly looks like grandma gave him a couple of glow-in-the-dark animals that are like stained glass, like a cat, a stained glass. I don't know what that is, a marmoset.
I think there's two frogs.
That's like, one's like a cat on the right maybe, and there's a marmoset and an owl. I don't know. That's what I'm guessing. I have no idea. One could be a nutria. I'm not sure. But there's 3 stained glass animals that are glowing in his background right now. And the most important part of this, though, is that he is telling people to nebulize hydrogen peroxide.
Holy shit.
Breathe it in because it's gonna help you with COVID. So I just want to play this and we'll talk about it as we play it.
Holy shit.
Now again, and I want to be real clear. I don't know who this guy is, right? I saw this is from Patriot Takes on Twitter. So I don't know exactly who this person is, right? But I want to talk about the idea of what this person is saying more than about the person himself.
Yeah, right. I just realized, Cecil, that in the bottom right-hand corner, he's got a thing that says, "News, come and take it."
That might be his thing. Is that the name of his thing?
News, come and take it. Come and take it? And if you want to come and take it, you can head over to adamandeve.com. Enter Glory at checkout.
I don't see anything in here, so.
That feels backwards. Should it be take it and come?
Caliente. All right, let me play this.
All right.
So this is this guy who wants you to nebulize hydrogen peroxide. Please don't do that. Please don't do that.
There's been a lot of articles saying, "Oh, this is terrible for you. Don't ever do this. Don't ever inhale nebulized hydrogen peroxide." But if a doctor's going to go on and actually say to do this, I trust in the one doctor. Again, I forget his name, but
this feels real, man.
I trust in that one doctor. I don't know his name.
Yeah. The reason this doesn't right now feel like a fraud is it's disorganized. Yeah. And like if you were going to like make some shit up, you'd have planned it out better. Yeah. This feels like already. I'm just like, holy shit, this has the chaotic feel of real bullshit.
Like real bullshit.
Yeah.
I'll post the videos. Mercola has a conversation with him.
Yikes.
In Rumble, I think they're also on BitChute, where they talk about the guy's been doing this since the 90s. Now, he also utilizes...
He also doesn't have lungs.
Yeah, he says he has.
Yeah, sure.
Hey, ladies, watch this. Cecil, I nebulize cyanide.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's really good.
Does it work good?
Kills everything.
Kills...
Kills everything. Works a charm, brother. I'll tell you what. I nebulize cyanide. I got no worries rest of the day.
Yeah.
Rest of the day.
I'm on a sawdust only diet.
High fiber.
High fiber. Man, I can't get off the toilet.
Jesus. I'm telling you,
I shit out 2x4.
my shit is so bulked up it comes out fucking yelling about turning the frogs gay.
I'm like a 3D printer for houses. I just shit like 2x4s and
I'm shitting out fucking Trex now.
I got the caulk, I got the 2x4, I got it all.
Where they talk about, the guy's been doing this since the 90s. Now he also utilizes iodine. Puts like a drop of iodine into the medicine bottle here. I haven't tried that yet. I'm gonna try it. I'm actually got some on order and see. The iodine that they're recommending, I think is it costs like $9 for 2 little bottles or something like that. So again, there are different ways to do it, but I find that this is the easiest way. Plus you got it like, in the fridge and it's ready to go.
It feels like he's giving me meth instructions. Dude, I don't know why, but it totally feels like
he sounds like a guy whose brain is rotted out on meth. That's why. He sounds like he's going to be like, all right, so I put a little chili pepper in my meth. They call me Chili P. The fuck out of here.
I like that blue shit, man. Give me that blue shit.
So whenever I go to a rally or I'm going to a restaurant or I went to the movies the other night and stuff like that, and, I don't ever wear a mask. So not that they help, but the first thing I do is I come in and I put one of these on. Also, I don't have to wait for that. To be honest with you, when I get up in the morning, I do this. And since then, I haven't been taking any antihistamines, anything like that. I haven't been taking any cold medication. I haven't had any congestion.
Wait a minute. Was he just taking cold medicine all the time before? Is that antihistamine's fine? Maybe you got allergies, right? Like I take fucking antihistamines. Sure. I got cats and I'm allergic to them. But is he just suggesting here that ever since I started inhaling fucking hydrogen peroxide, I don't have to take cold medicine? Yeah, man, your fucking sinuses are fried out.
What's crazy is he's doing it prophylactically.
Right.
He's just doing it he just does it in the morning. Every morning I just do it.
Was he taking Sudafed every morning though?
Yeah, well, if
I don't have to do that anymore.
If he was on meth, he probably had plenty of Sudafed.
My sleep has been a lot better. I attribute it to this because it's the only thing that I've done that's been really different. So nebulizer, $80, $90 with tax. I would say $8 to $10.
Where's your tax? 12.5%.
Food grade 12% hydrogen peroxide for $100. I think it's worth it. And again, like I said,
how much was the hydrogen peroxide?
Did he say $400?
Did he say First of all,
he might have. Let me.
Cecil, you got some chefing degrees.
Mm-hmm.
You ever heard of fucking food grade hydrogen peroxide?
I have never heard of food grade. But
you put hydrogen peroxide into your food, brother?
I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what you're disinfecting with that.
What the fuck? What the actual fuck? Food grade.
I mean,
also when you order it online and it just says food grade on the bottle, I could sell you a shit in a fucking Ziploc and scroll on it food grade. You don't know anything.
I know where you use food grade hydrogen peroxide. So if you're a cattle rancher and your cattle gets a boo-boo, then you put it on there. You just take a little, Tom, you take a little on it, you dab it. You just got to dab it. You don't want to.
A little dab will do you.
So you just take it and you put it on some gauze, a little bit of gauze, and then you tap it. You tap it on there for the boo-boo. You kiss it afterwards too.
You have to. If you don't kiss it, how are you going to make it all better?
And it also tastes like rare beef, which is delicious, by the way. So,
have you ever?
It's like carpaccio knee.
Have you ever had a
bite out of it? It's like I like my steak. It's like the temperature I like my steak at.
It's like steak ceviche now. That's what it is.
It's carpaccio. It's like you just they take a cracker out there and they dip it right in there.
Scoop it right out of the cow.
All the vegans are throwing up right now.
Oh God.
Every vegan just threw their iPod down on the ground. Ran away.
Have you ever had a canker sore and been told gargle hydrogen peroxide though?
That's unpleasant.
If you gargle hydrogen peroxide, one of the ways that I was curious how it worked. So one of the ways that it is antiseptic is it is a debriding agent. So the reason that it bubbles and the reason that that's good is it actually debrides the wound. It pulls the bubbling action, like moves dirt and bacteria physically out of the wound. But the other thing that it does is it kills all the fucking cells.
Kills everything.
Right? So like, if you gargle with fucking hydrogen peroxide or swish your mouth out with it because you have like a fucking canker sore, the next day it's like you ate Captain Crunch. Your fucking mouth falls off inside. I can't imagine bringing this into my soft lung tissue.
No, man. I know.
My lungs.
There's a reason why they're set. Like everybody is saying, this is a horror. Please don't do this. Right? Please don't do this. This guy's like,
I'm so afraid right now that he's going to do this.
Okay,
on screen.
so I want to hear how much this costs. We stopped it before it cost.
I was blown away by the food grade hydrogen peroxide.
Let's hear how much it is.
Nebulizer, $80, $90 with tax. I would say $8 to $10 for the food grade 12% hydrogen peroxide.
Okay.
For $100, I think it's worth it.
$100 total dollars.
Like I said,
Okay. I
went to the movies the other night in Pasadena. You don't have to show a vax card, and we didn't wear masks, and we're in the, in there with a bunch of vaxxed out people shedding all over us and everything like that. Even though they got masks on.
So the thing is, like, these guys are insinuating with those comments though that they are afraid of COVID.
Yeah.
Right?
They're afraid of it. They're only afraid of it, though, after you get it because you're shedding it. They're not afraid of COVID in its natural form.
Right.
They're only afraid of it once you get it. They're blaming literally all the things that they're doing, like mutating the gene, spreading it really easily. They're blaming it on someone else who's already taken the precautions.
So in their mind, if the only people that are spreading COVID, Cecil, are people that were vaccinated, how did COVID spread
initially
before the vaccination?
No idea, Tom. I cannot answer that question. Magic is what I'm going to have to say.
I don't even know why I asked that question.
Magic or Fauci came by your house at night and sprinkled dust on your pillow like the tooth fairy.
It's chemtrails from the Bill Gates nanorobot.
Exactly. There you go.
Yeah, I should have thought of that. Yeah, it's space lasers from the Jews.
First thing I did as soon as I got home is I hit this. Takes about 10 minutes to go to the end here. And you can watch TV while you're doing it. It's not that intrusive. It's a little loud, but it's not that loud. And no problem.
What's the next thing? What's the next damaging, horrible? Are they going to be like, what the best way to cure COVID is to put a shotgun barrel in your mouth?
Yeah, man. I was
like, what is the thing? Like, they're going to be like, what you got to do is you got to get in your car. You got to blindfold yourself. You can't wear a seatbelt, and then you've got to hit the gas until you stop going places. Like you just aim your car in one direction, hit the gas, and you cannot hit the brake. And that'll cure your COVID. Like at a certain point, we're going to be getting into these things where they're just like, no, you've got to shave all of your skin off with a razor.
If you're having a hard time breathing after contracting COVID, what you can do is take a medical grade screwdriver and stab it into your lung. And that way you'll get nature's air.
Yeah.
For fuck's sake, man. For fuck's sake.
If you drink straight motor oil.
Food grade motor
straight
oil.
motor oil.
Yeah, don't be ridiculous, Cecil.
Seriously, these people, at a certain point, we're going to be, is this ever going to stop? It feels constantly escalating in the wrong direction.
Yeah,
it's never anything innocuous. It's never like, you should just nebulize. I don't know what's safe to nebulize, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
water, maybe, I guess. I don't know.
Saline.
Saline.
Like, you can nebulize. Yeah. I have a nebulizer because I have some asthma. So like, I haven't used it in years, thankfully, but like, yeah, man, it's like saline and your medicine for asthma.
Okay, so
that's what you should nebulize.
Let's just say they just said saline instead.
Yeah.
Let's just say he said saline.
Fine.
Okay, great.
Fine, man.
Do it. The first thing is they're not vaccinated. I hate that. That makes me crazy. Right. But at least you're not putting a video out that could potentially hurt someone and damage them permanently. Because there's going to be somebody stupid out there who does this. And great, there's possibility he's done it.
Yeah, man. Also, like, I don't know what volume. So I'm thinking back, and I don't know much, man, but like, I'm thinking back to when I used my nebulizer and you used, and the amount of medicine was maybe a half an ounce of medicine.
Yeah.
Like, how much fucking moisture is this guy introducing into his fucking lungs with the net? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, when you use a fucking nebulizer, you use really small amounts of medicine, really, really small amounts of medicine because, I don't know, drowning is bad for you.
Yeah.
Dry drowning is bad for you. Like, what the fuck? Even if they're going to, like, these guys who do saline, like, you need 3 pints of saline and just, they'll fucking drown themselves. They're stupid as the fucking birds that look up at the sky when it rains and just drown.
Yeah. This is insane. When I saw this, Tom, I saw the headline. I didn't watch the video beforehand, but I saw the headline and I could not believe it.
Yeah. Also, listen to him talk. Would you take advice from a man who can barely form a coherent sentence?
Yeah.
He sounds like a guy who really struggling to figure out the next words or what's going to
100%, man.
Would you take advice from that guy?
No.
That guy doesn't know he doesn't know his fucking home address.
Jesus, man.
He has to check his fucking underwear for the fucking name on the label to make sure it's his. You fucking kidding me? That guy?
But I still don't know what to make of it. It's partly because it's too terrifying a reality to fully believe. I don't even know what would happen to you if you fully believed it.
This story comes from religiondispatches.org. Praying for a victory, packed Supreme Court takes up yet another Christian nationalist cause. So I only grabbed this story because I think the way that they frame the story is an interesting way to frame the story. And that is that there's this coach, and this coach wants to pray after games. And
publicly, with the team. He wants to make the team pray with him. It's not that he wants to silently stand on the side or even wherever he wants and pray silently.
Right.
That's not what he wants to do, because that's totally 100% protected.
You could always do that.
Yeah.
Like everybody, just to be super duper clear, Cecil's point, everybody can already pray everywhere they want to pray.
Yeah.
There's literally no place that you can't pray that you're allowed to be in. You know, like you can't go into places you're not allowed to be in specially just to pray. But if you're allowed to be there, there's no place in the entire world you cannot pray.
Yeah.
But what you can't do as a government employee is lead students in a prayer. Yep. And you can't do that because it is inherently compulsory, right? So if you're the fucking coach and I'm the fucking student, and everybody on the team is gathered around, or 7 out of 10 people are gathered around, where the coach has an enormous amount of power, control, and influence over you, your day, and your life,
He's
right?
the one who decides who plays, man.
He's the guy who's going to make sure that you're playing when a scout from the college. This guy can make or break.
Absolutely. He has a tremendous power over you.
So you're going to piss that guy off, or are you going to huddle with him?
Yep.
And we only do this for Christians.
Yep.
We only do this for Christians. If this dude was a Muslim who wanted to put a fucking prayer rug out.
What if he was a Satanist?
Yeah, right.
That's what it should be.
Yeah.
To be honest, that's what we need to do. You need to get a bunch of people that are Satanists in the Satanist church, and you need to make them coaches. Be like, great, let's do it.
Awesome.
Okay, cool. We're Satanists. We're going to do a Satanist prayer.
Yep.
We're going to sit down. We're going to praise Satan before our game and after our game.
I would like to see the Satan thing, and I would like to see a Muslim thing.
Yeah.
I would like to see a religion that has less of a publicly farcical element to it, you know? Yeah. And I would like that guy to get everybody to fucking pull out a prayer rug and play the fucking call to prayer over the loudspeakers or loudly intone the call to prayer and do the whole prayer in the middle of fucking middle America would lose its shit.
Yeah.
They would lose their shit. They would lose their shit and they would say, oh my God, he's indoctrinating our kids. The thing is, like, the Supreme Court is almost certainly going to allow this.
They're set up to do this. They're set up to do this. You know what this reminds me of? Isn't this what Not a Coach got fired for?
It's exactly what Not a Coach got fired for.
Not a Coach got fired because of this, because he wanted to get the kids together and fucking pray with them.
Yep.
And they said, get the fuck out of here, Not a Coach. You're not a fucking coach. And
you can pray on your own time.
Yeah. And now he does on Pass the Salt Live.
Right.
With his two guys.
Nobody stopped him from praying.
Yeah. With the 2 guys who say amen, coach, or whatever.
And there's 6 guys that watch that show.
Yeah, the 6 people that watch it.
Jesus Christ.
The one guy from Right Wing Watch who has to be there.
I miss Dave. We haven't had a Dave story in a long time.
This is kind of a Dave story, though. I mean, this is sad. This is a sad
Dave
day.
2.0.
It's sad because you're right, because we're set up to fail. The Supreme Court has been set up to fail.
Yep.
And so now this is something that almost feels, I mean, you can see it from the outside. It's like the slow wreck of a train.
Yep.
You're just like, yeah, no, this is going to happen to us. There's going to be a moment in this. And, you know, it's been pushed for years. Since the 60s, they've been trying to make school prayer a thing.
Absolutely.
Since the 60s,
Yep.
since the Red Scare, they've been trying to do this. So they've been trying to do this for a long time.
Yep.
And this is how you do it. This is you finally get it in there, and then once it gets in there.
Well, and that's the thing is that I do care on an individual student level for anyone that's uncomfortable. But at the end of the day, what matters about this is like everything else, it opens up the door and it creates a precedent.
Yep.
And the precedent that it creates is that school officials do not have a mandated separation of church and state, that school officials are allowed to create compulsory situations of religious indoctrination within their institutions, and they can enforce through social mechanisms the students to engage in those.
Yeah.
That's what's going to, that's what comes next, because it's not going to be just this coach. There's going to be lots of coaches. I guarantee there's going to be lots of coaches that want to do this.
Yep.
And then there's going to be students that are atheists, and there's going to be students that are Jews, and there's going to be students that are Muslim and Hindu that feel uncomfortable, but they want to play. So they're going to stand there and they're going to do their fucking religious bowing and
they're gonna,
fucking whatever.
Yeah.
And then the principal of a school is going to say, I want my 10 commandments in the school. And then somebody else is going to say, you know what? I want to ban that book because of violence. And it's good. This is an escalating snowball that destroys the separation of church and state within our educational institutions.
I want to teach what I want to teach, and I want to teach biblical history in history class.
You're going to have a biology teacher who's going to teach creation, man.
Teach creation. And
like this is going to happen.
This is opening the door to a lot of bad things.
Yep.
The real story?
The real story.
Well, the real story is I like to pig out on books.
You know, that's actually a great idea, Kermit. Mm-hmm. And if you like to pig out on books, here's some that you might enjoy.
So for this week, for Cogdis Book Club, we are at the second to last chapter of the book. We are at the chapter is chapter 24, Science and Witchcraft.
Awesome chapter.
Excellent chapter.
Excellent
chapter. This chapter really talks, it starts out talking about the witch trials. And there's an interesting part, a big long piece from an excerpt from someone who wrote a whistleblowing book. He was a priest who was a brother or something, you know, some religious person who was hearing witches' confessions. And he wrote basically a whistleblowing book. And there's a bunch of points in here that he makes, and they're all really just like, holy shit, if you let them control the narrative, you're fucked.
Yes.
And there's a part of this too that I want to read, because the rest of the chapter is essentially about that. Don't let them control the narrative.
Yep.
Don't let them decide what reality is.
How much did this chapter just fucking...
It leaped off the page.
I know.
It leaped off the page. And, you know, a lot of people quote that beginning piece, right? Remember that one that we saw?
Yeah.
Like, that gets quoted a lot. This is crazy to me. This part here. He says, in our time, with total fabrication of realistic stills, motion pictures, and videotapes technologically within reach, with television in every home, and with critical thinking in decline, restructuring societal memories, even without much attention from the secret police, seems possible. What I'm imagining here is not that each of us has a budget of memories implanted in special therapeutic sessions by state-appointed psychiatrists, but rather that a small numbers of people will have so much control over news stories, history books, and deeply affecting images as to work major changes in collective attitudes.
When I read this out loud for the audio version, I think I screamed that line.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't help but feel the tension rising as I read that, because the truth of that is so much worse than he imagined.
It's so much worse.
And the acceleration of those truths is only getting more severe.
Yeah. This chapter is literally where we live, right?
It is.
It is a roadmap. It's showing you the link to the past with the witch trials.
Yep.
It's showing you that it's happened before. It's showing you that it's cyclical, and that throughout history we've had this happen over and over and over again. And what touches me the most, and what sort of scares me the most, is that for my whole life, I always felt like this was out of reach. And when I read this years ago, I thought, well, it's written down so we won't fall for it.
Yeah, man.
This is in a book, so there's no way it's going to happen to us again.
I know.
You know, when I read this as a kid, I thought, yeah, and that's why we need to speak it out loud, because if that happens, that can't happen again. We can't we can't fall for that again. And here I am, 20 years after I read this book, saying, holy shit, we fell for it again.
Yep.
And we fell for it in a way that is terrifying, and we fell for it in a way that I don't know how the wheel rights itself, because, you know, for years and years and years, you know, the wheel keeps spinning.
Yep.
And so there's always this parabolic arc where it gets really, really bad, but then it drops back down. It's like COVID numbers. It gets really, really bad, and then it drops back down.
Right.
It keeps doing it. Well, we're at a peak. How high does this peak go? Does the peak ever start to slow down? It feels like all gas, no brakes.
Yeah. Yeah. What struck me about that exact same point is that when this was happening during the witch trials, the pace of technological change was relatively slow.
Yeah.
And I mean, very slow.
Very
by
slow.
comparison
Glacially slow in comparison.
Very slow. And so the reason that that's important is that the tools that were available to the oppressors were clumsier, and they weren't getting better next year.
Yeah.
And they weren't getting better in the same generation.
Right.
And I read this chapter, and I think part of what Carl is like really saying is like, look, the tools matter.
Yeah.
TV matter. The reason he brings up TV a lot is TV matters. TV is a place where we go to learn stories about who we are. TV is a place where we go to learn the truth of the day, to get the news.
Yeah.
Now, granted, that world has shifted. Most people our age don't use TV in the same way.
Yeah.
But the reason he brings up TV is because the technology that we use to engage the world is the tool that we use to understand the world, and that gets manipulated by those who own it.
Yeah.
We are in a place where less and less people own more and more.
Yeah.
That pace of acceleration has grown dramatically in the last 25, 30 years. The technology and the pace and speed and rate of change within that has grown fucking exponentially. I can't even imagine how much in 25, 30 years. And there's every reason to believe that in the next 25 to 30 years, that rate of change will accelerate from here.
Yeah.
We are in a real place of peril that he warned us about in the 90s, man.
He knew about it.
In the 90s.
30 years ago.
And we didn't fix it.
Yeah.
And if we read this book now and we don't take heed, which we won't.
Which we won't.
In 25 or 30 years, we are fucked, man.
Yeah. The fact is you're right, is that next year it's going to be worse. And next year they're going to have more data on you. And next year they're going to be able to target you even easier.
Yes.
And next year they're going to introduce a different system that's going to make it more immersive, and on and on and on and on and on. And it's going to keep exponentially getting worse in our lifetimes, not in generations and generations and generations to come. This is in our lifetimes.
Yes,
this happens now.
Yes, this is soon. The metaverse, they're talking about the fucking metaverse. And one of the first things that started happening within the fucking metaverse, which is in its infancy, is major fucking financial players have begun to purchase the digital real estate within the metaverse. So the digital real estate, meaning who controls this thing, which is in its infancy, is already in the hands of the power brokers.
Yes.
It's not even available to us yet, and we've lost and ceded control of it.
Right.
So before we even enter these new systems, these systems are rigged by those in power.
They're rigged already. But
the fucking circuses are going to be amazing.
I'll tell you this, though. You read this thing and you see it and you think it wasn't even close to as sophisticated, but he knew we couldn't handle it then.
Yes.
Like he knew we couldn't handle it back then, and it wasn't even close to as sophisticated.
Yep.
Now we're here. And it's like, I feel like the kid who's trying to, who accidentally set the house on fire and is trying to put it out with a cup.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where you're just like, I keep running back to the faucet and I throw a cup on. That's not working. Do it again. It's at this point, especially in this book, when you read it and you're like, yeah, man, I live every day in this world, like where someone's controlling a large group of people with lies.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's essentially, that's the whole chapter, man.
That's
the
OAN.
whole chapter. And you're right. It's
OAN, man.
It's Trump. It's Trump on Twitter.
Yeah.
If you took a look at every tweet that he tweeted while he was president, and you gave it an error bar, think about how often he lied. Think about that.
Yeah. It's insane. It's tens of thousands.
They said it was in the tens of thousands of lies. I'm just wondering about his Twitter account, but he's in the tens of thousands of lies that he spoke or said or whatever.
Right.
But, think about just his Twitter account. Think about how much misinformation was just coming out of that from just being retweeted, from just the people who replied underneath who were spreading misinformation as well.
Well, and it's important to recognize a few essential mathematical truths, which we know now, right? Which is that when Trump got off of Twitter, the disinformation within that ecosystem fell dramatically. I don't remember what the number was, but it was an enormous number.
It was like over 50%.
When they look on like fucking Facebook and figure out where most of this vaccine disinformation comes from, it's from 12 or 13 people.
It's a few people.
The information that is fed and that is disseminated and that we believe, it comes from a tiny number of actors.
Yeah.
Consolidating money is a consolidation of power. Consolidating communication technologies is a consolidation of power and narrative.
Yeah.
And we're doing this.
Yeah.
We're doing it like really, really, really fast. And we should be very concerned about those consolidations. There's a bullshit idea that because we all have access to it, that the web is democratic.
Yeah.
But it is not.
Yeah.
Because you control nothing important. And that's the thing that you need to realize is the piece of the web that you control was granted to you for free by people that don't care that you have it. The point of you being on there is not to share a fucking recipe or your outrage of a thing or a picture of your baby. The point of you being there is to be a consumed good, to be a product. People own this technology and they own the way that technology gets used and how information flows through it. And they're all the ones in charge. We're not in charge just because we can type whatever we want into a fucking Twitter thing.
Because it doesn't matter.
It's this stupid fucking idea. And we're stupid for thinking that was ever true.
Yeah, this chapter is really just super powerful, though.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
I was
awesome.
reading it and I was like, holy shit. You know, you start reading the points, each bullet point, and you start reading from the guy who's talking about, you know, he's basically describing how they're lying to people and how they're able to control the narrative when it comes to witches.
Yes.
And you're just like, holy shit, man.
Yeah,
like,
man. How much did that feel like the criminal justice system today,
How much of it feels right now?
Yeah.
How much of it feels right now?
Yeah.
Really powerful chapter. Really
Great
amazing.
chapter.
Amazing. You know, it's like there's been a couple, they go high and low, but this one, outstanding.
Overall, we can talk about it overall and we're done. But overall, it's a great book, but it's a very uneven book.
Very uneven. Some things go, it's like, as far as things go, sometimes it's very uneven. This is an excellent chapter, though. Definitely worth your time. Next time, last chapter of the book, we'll be closing out Cogdis Book Club. We'll probably close out the whole book, maybe another week. We'll probably do 1 week where we just talk about the whole book on its own. But next week is chapter 25, Real Patriots Ask Questions. And that's it. That's the end of the book. It looks like it's a relatively short chapter. So join us next time. Pick this book up if you haven't. Go back and listen to all the other pieces.
Listen to it and read it.
Read it. It's worthwhile. It's worth your time. So we'd like to thank our patrons. Of course, we'd like to thank all our patrons, but we'd like to thank our newest patrons, Robert, Christy, Luke, Michael, John, Tamara, and the people who upped their pledges, a mail lady. Thank you so much for your generous donations. We really, truly appreciate it. You guys are the reason we can do things like have employees to give a review on a live stream.
Right. There's no giving a review to Ian if there's not an Ian. And there would not be an Ian if there wasn't for patrons. So thank you.
Yeah, so thank you very much. We actually got a message from Todd with 3Ds. And he said, I quite like Ian and think he's doing a hell of a job, but I'll throw in a one-time $50 extra donation if you accuse him of stealing office whatnots.
Yeah. You know, God damn it, Ian. Yeah. I know you're like hundreds of miles away, but when things go missing, I do think it's your fault.
I know.
Whenever I misplace something, I wander around my house cursing Ian.
We're going to go to Ian's studio one day and we're just going to open it and all our staplers will be in one drawer.
If Ian's going to steal anything, it would be Gary.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That's why Gary sits in the corner with a constant, he's in a canary. He's in like one of those things, like those Nest things that keeps an eye on in parts of your house, like a nanny cam or whatever. He's got a nanny cam on him 24 hours a day. We should have a camera that only shows Gary.
Just all the time.
Like a 24-hour webcam for
we should
Gary.
Literally buy this.
That is so funny.
That's a great idea.
Holy
we should literally
shit,
buy
that's
this.
so funny.
Ian, buy us and send us a webcam.
Yeah, and we could set it up
and we're just going to have a Gary channel.
We're just going to have a Gary camera.
Oh, it's great.
Literally sent us a message and said, story isn't exactly as stupid as headlines promises. Only surprises that it didn't start out with a Florida man. This is a story we had planned to cover tonight. We just didn't have time in the regular show, but we do want to talk about it a little. Singer dies after deliberately catching COVID so she could obtain a recently recovered pass. This happened in Poland, was it?
Yeah. So if you have been vaccinated, you have a pass and you can enter civilized society like a decent fucking person. And also, if you have a recently recovered certificate, so you have natural immunity or natural antibodies, you can use the same thing in the same way.
Yeah.
So rather than go get the fucking vaccination, somebody went out of their way to get sick.
Yeah.
And then, as sometimes happens, they died from getting sick.
Yeah, they 100% died. And they were a singer and they wanted to go out and gig again.
Right.
and their husband and their son wound up getting COVID. Because they were vaccinated and they were able to go out and do whatever they wanted. And then they thought, well, fuck, I should get COVID too. So they didn't leave. They stayed with the husband and son, and then they fucking died. Could you imagine how terrible you would feel if that was like your mom or your wife that you murdered?
Yes. Yeah, you have to live the rest of your life.
And I mean, they murdered themselves. I said that you murdered them, but you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
but you contributed in any way.
You would contribute, and you would feel it regardless of whether or not you felt responsible.
Yes.
You would still kind of, I think, feel responsible.
You would feel terrible for being a part in any way of that.
It's awful. It's a terrible story. And the son who is telling the world is basically like, please don't, I told you so. That's not helping me.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, you're right. You know, it's not. But it's sad. It's just sad.
Just terrible.
And it's not, I told you so. I don't want I told you so. What I want is other people to learn from your mother's mistake. That's what I want to happen. I don't care. I don't want to like shame your mom or shame you or whatever. Right. What I want is for everybody to hear that story and then change what they're doing if they were doing something else.
Because with Omicron, people are talking about having Omicron parties, like chickenpox parties, because they have this feeling that they just want to get it over with.
Yeah, it's not going to do anything.
Like some people who get it over with will get themselves
They'll be
over
literally
with.
gotten over with.
They're done.
Yeah. We got a message from Lane, and Lane says, hey, just wanted to let you guys know that Ben & Jerry's makes an ice cream that is a little boozy. It's Whiskey Biz, and it's a brown butter bourbon ice cream with a blonde brownie and whiskey caramel swirls with white chocolatey ganache and white fudge chunks. First off, there's a lot of stuff in there that's not appealing to me. I'm not a white chocolate guy myself.
No.
White chocolate is just a sweet. It's like a hard sweet. It's not really good at all.
Also,
I'm not a huge fan.
Frozen white chocolate?
Yeah, it's
like
not.
White chocolate is bad.
Yeah.
But frozen white chocolate sounds exceptionally bad.
I'm not, that doesn't appeal to me. And actually I was talking to Tom before we started recording this, and I'm not a huge fan of boozy desserts. Boozy desserts for me, they ruin the booze and they ruin the dessert. Like it does double duty ruining both things. In fact, I like a lot of the stuff we were talking about tiramisu, and tiramisu can be very boozy on occasion.
Yeah. And I don't like that.
And I don't like it when it's boozy. I actually like it when there's no booze in it. And I'm not a huge fan of many desserts that have Grand Marnier in them. I'm not like a huge fan. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly. Please don't send me your correction because I don't give a fuck how it's pronounced. But in any case, that orange liqueur from France, I don't like that. And that's a very popular thing to sort of leave completely without even reducing. Yeah. It's just like you pour that over fruit and things like that. And it's like, oh, it's it's terrible. But some people really like boozy desserts. It's not for me though.
I'm trying to think of a boozy dessert that I've really loved.
I don't like rum cake. I don't like any of that stuff.
And I can't, literally nothing comes to mind. And tiramisu is the first one that I thought of too, but my favorite tiramisus are always heavy on the espresso.
Espresso, yeah. So we got a message from Neve, and Neve says, you guys were talking about Anthony Fauci, and you were saying he doesn't make that much money. He couldn't make in private practice. Technically, that's true, but it's also misleading. Dr. Fauci is the single highest paid employee in the U.S. federal government. He literally makes more money than the president, and nearly twice that of four-star generals. In 2020, his salary was $434,000, putting him ahead of over 4 million U.S. federal employees. Basically saying that like it's a good compensation. It's better than a good compensation package, and it would be hard to replicate it elsewhere. What we're trying to say, I think, though, is that when we looked up salaries for doctors in the Chicagoland area, it would be over that for his qualification level.
Yeah, I think, and I guess the only point that I want to make, the larger point is, it's not like somebody like Dr. Fauci with the reputation, the years of experience, he could leave and go make at least that much money.
At least.
Somewhere else. So to suggest, and I think the senators and the people that have been grilling him have been sort of suggesting that he's in this for the money. And honestly, like, he cannot be in this for the money if he can make the same money with half the abuse.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And the amount of money he's making is a lot of money. It's not like we're shitting on the amount of money he's making.
Right.
He's making a shit ton of money. Right. He's making an absolute,
it's a shit ton of money.
It's absolutely a lot of money. And you're absolutely right. He's a government employee, but he does one of the most important jobs in the country.
Right.
And I don't mind that he's making that money.
No, not at all.
And I also do think that if he was on some boards, he wrote a book, he started doing a talking circuit, and he had a job somewhere, he could destroy that. Probably with less hours could make easily a lot more money than that.
Yes,
you know,
yes.
you know,
He certainly could.
One of the things we got to think about is like some of these people that stop becoming politicians and they get into the private sector afterwards, they make millions of dollars very quickly.
Yeah.
Because they're very popular, and then people want them on their boards. They want them to do these things. And they get speaking engagements, and these speaking engagements pay immense amounts of money, and they make millions of dollars very quickly.
Yep.
Within a couple years, they'll make millions of dollars. They were talking about Biden. Biden was relatively, for all his years as a senator, he was, he wasn't very rich. He was, he had a nice house or whatever, but he wasn't he wasn't killing it.
He wasn't Scrooge McDuck.
But when he stopped being vice president until he became president, he made millions of dollars because of all the stuff he was doing.
Yeah,
so it's pretty easy for people that are very popular to make a lot of money in government.
So I guess, Nave, you're right. He makes an enormous amount of money for a federal government employee. The thing is, federal government employees aren't compensated as well as private sector employees typically. And Dr. Fauci could at any time, I really do think he could at any time just say, fuck this, I'm out. And I'm amazed that he hasn't. And I guess that's just kind of the point I meant to drive home. So I did it clumsily, I'm sorry, but we don't deserve that guy.
Yeah.
And he doesn't need to take this kind of abuse. And he's certainly not taking this kind of abuse because he doesn't have other financial options.
We got an image, and this is from Seth, and it has nothing to do with the show.
But it's a great image.
It's an image of Batman, and it's an image of Catwoman, and it's just an image of love. And we're going to post it on this week's show notes, so check it out.
It's really a whole tableau.
Tom, we got a message from Christian, and Christian sends this in, and this is talking about happy accidents in science.
Yeah, he says, hey guys, this is actually one of my big problems with life sciences. I work as a neuroscience tech because most of our funding comes from the government, and the government is specifically interested in fixing a list of health problems. You can't do basic research, that fundamental science. Instead, you have to do translational science, where findings are directly related to some problem you hope to solve. Even in academia, where we don't really have a product to develop, we can't really get money for basic research because it doesn't align with the goals of NIH, which gives out most of the grant money. That's honestly my dream job. Pay off student loans, get my PhD, do my postdoc, and if by some chance I win the Powerball, to have a lab that's so well funded it can do exclusively basic research. If your work happens to fix a problem, cool. If not, also cool. I thought this was really interesting. To name only one example, over the last decade or so, we found a dozen new types of RNA, and no one knows what functions they have. We could figure that out, maybe in a few years, if we didn't have to spend all day, every day, writing grants and only researching things that we could tie to an NIH priority.
Wow, crazy. Yeah, I mean,
we need that work, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, we need that stuff done. 2 crabulous aquariums? Is that it?
2 crabulous aquariums.
2 crabulous aquariums comments and says, hey guys, I'm pretty sure the demon haunted world where the queen ordered the scientists to invent a TV was a hypothetical. You're absolutely right. I think I misread it when I read it the first time, and I went back and checked, and you're absolutely right. We got a message from Jay, and Jay says, he sent us a video on gun control we're going to post. It's a clip from Bojack Horsemen that I had never seen that is very, very funny.
It's terrific.
It's terrifying. It's so true. It's like something we talked about on the show earlier too. So check it out on this week's show notes. Thank you, Jay, for sending it in.
It's very good.
Jonathan sends a message to you, Tom. He says, hey, Tom, that asshole on the right that said parents would use child tax credit for drugs was Joe Manchin.
And I will say, I do stand corrected, but I also stand by.
Yeah, no, stand by what you said.
Fucker on the right.
Stand by what you said, Tom. Stand by what you said.
Thank you for the correction.
Doom sent in a message, and he says, just wanted to add my tiny thought about your discussion about how we are obsessed about the idea of freedom. I grew up in Europe, so I may have a slightly different perspective on it. I think most of the world, or even the U.S. in the past, looks at freedom as freedom from. I'm free from persecution. Versus in the U.S., it's freedom to. I'm free to do whatever I want to do.
I think that's a great point.
I think you're right. And I think, do you remember when George Bush stood up there and he said, freedom, we're the country with freedom.
Yeah.
I think that's what he meant.
The terrorists hate our freedom.
I think that's what he meant.
Yeah.
Was we're the country with freedom. We're that country. We're that country because our freedom is different than other people's freedom.
Yeah. We've got a unique case to be made for American freedom.
We have stupid freedom.
Yeah.
We
literally have stupid
dumb freedom.
Yeah.
We have hold my beer freedom.
Yes.
Yeah. 100%.
Absolutely.
And that's just That should be a shirt. Hold my beer.
Hold
free-
my beer.
Hold my
Holy
beer
shit,
freedom.
that should be a shirt.
Because it's 100% true.
Yeah, man.
We got a message from Jesse, and Jesse says, I've been listening to your show, and you guys talked about SB 8, and this was the Texas law that allows citizens to sue people who help facilitate abortions, not the people getting abortions, but people who facilitate abortions. And he said, you guys were looking for an analog, something you could use to sort of fight fire with fire. And he says, what about agriculture? Him and his wife were talking about it. Seems like, might work. Basically, you could sue those people who hire laborers that don't pay minimum wage, that, that break labor laws, because this happens across red states all over, where they use illegal labor. They hate immigrants, but they use illegal labor. They
rely on
crazy.
them. Yeah.
And they pay them shit wages. Allow people to sue those farming and agricultural institutions that, and I would say, the dairy industry too, and the meatpacking industry.
Yeah,
if you find out that somebody construction, all the industries, I think that do this, that could be the thing.
It's a great idea.
It's a great idea. This is the first one that I thought, no, that one might work.
This really might work.
That one might work.
Yeah.
You start suing the biggest corporations that are the biggest, reddest corporations that are the ones that feed that money to the Republican Party. That changes, I think, their whole perspective on this thing.
It does. Part of what this vigilante approach does is it eliminates the idea that you have to have standing in order to sue. And so if all of a sudden you don't have to have standing in order to sue, you don't have to be an affected or aggrieved party. You just have to have knowledge of a bad action.
Yeah.
The whole world shifts. The whole legal world shifts.
Yeah. Yeah. So that is going to wrap it up for this week. We're going to finish off Demon Haunted World next week. So read that final chapter and join us. Tom is reading it for patrons. So the last chapter, you can still get in on the action. You could go become a patron, go listen to all 24 and, the 24 previous ones, get caught up, and then you can catch the last chapter next week. But yeah, come join us for Demon Haunted World. Come join us on stream for Ian's commercial Battle Royale. We're doing the second part of that bracket. We figured out a voting thing, so you just vote while you're in the chat. You just type vote.
It worked great.
It worked great. We did it on Ian's review. So we've got, it's pretty great. So come join us for our commercial battle. Ian's going to do a commercial battle. We'll be playing some of the commercials, talking about them. Ian will be explaining them. We'll probably be telling you some behind the scenes stuff that happened while he's making them. And then we're going to have you guys vote on which one wins in the bracket. So you guys are the ones who decide which one wins. You guys broke my heart last time. You didn't have Ian's friend beat Ian, which is the worst thing that Chad has ever done for me. But in any case, I know it's the worst.
You guys, if you missed Ian's review, go to our YouTube page.
Yeah.
It's there.
Yeah.
Not enough people are heading over there. His fucking review was great.
It was fun.
It was really fun.
It was fun. We've had some really good, fun stuff that's happened on stream. If you're not catching the streams live, you can always catch them on YouTube. And while you're at YouTube, hit the subscribe button. That way you know when we're going to go live. If you hit the subscribe and the bell, you know when we're going to go live. And then you'll get a notification when we're going live. You could do that on Twitch too. They'll send you a little email if we go live. They'll be like, hey, so-and-so's live now. You can go check it out. And then on Facebook, if you like us on Facebook, you'll also get a notification in Facebook if you happen to be on Facebook at that time. Or within I think it's within an hour, they'll tell you, Cogdis is
that's
awesome. Live.
Yeah.
So check it out. Anyway, go to those places and do the likey, subscribey stuff.
Yeah, just do that stuff.
It'll be fun. All right, so that's going to wrap it up for this week. We're going to leave you like we always do with the Skeptic's Creed.
Credulity is not a virtue. It's fortune cookie cutter, mommy issue, hypno-Babylon bullshit. Couched in scientician, double bubble, toil and trouble, pseudo quasi alternative, acupunctuating, pressurized, stereogram, pyramidal, free energy healing, water downward spiral, brain deadpan, sales pitch, late night info docutainment. Leo, Pisces, cancer cures, detox, reflex, foot massage, death and towers, tarot cards, psychic healing, crystal balls, Bigfoot, Yeti, aliens, churches, mosques and synagogues, temples, dragons, giant worms, Atlantis, dolphins, truthers, birthers, witches, wizards, vaccine nuts, shaman healers, evangelists, conspiracy, doublespeak, stigmata, nonsense. Expose your sides. thrust your hands, bloody, evidential, conclusive. Doubt even this.
The opinions and information provided on this podcast are intended for entertainment purposes only. All opinions are solely that of Glory Hole Studios, LLC. Cognitive Dissonance makes no representations as to accuracy, completeness, currentness, suitability, or validity of any information, and will not be liable for any errors, damages, or butthurt arising from consumption. All information is provided on an as-is basis. No refunds. Produced in association with the local Dairy Council and viewers like you.